In a perfect ideal world, probably avoiding pacifier use altogether would be best for the oral health of your baby, but we all know we don't live in a perfect ideal world. We live in a world where babies benefit from the soothing and calming effects of using a pacifier. And the point that I hope I've hit home here is if you choose to use pacifiers, to use them more sparingly and wean appropriately, which is what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to be honest here, the research is not crystal clear on when to wean from a pacifier either. Depending on which research you look at, pacifier weaning is recommended anywhere from 6 months all the way up until your child begins losing their baby teeth. Before we get into how to wean from the pacifier, let's talk a little bit about pacifier use and preventing finger and thumb sucking. This may sound a little bit crazy at first, but stick with me here. If you are attempting to remove the pacifier and it results in your infant or young toddler thumb sucking or finger sucking, give them the pacifier back. Prolonged finger sucking is detrimental to dental health. What we know about pacifier users is most will actually stop using the pacifier between 2 and 3 years old, and finger sucking usually persists to 5 years old and beyond. This is why it's so important to prevent finger sucking before it becomes a habit. Infants who are older at the time pacifier use or breastfeeding is discontinued are less likely to continue a finger sucking habit. The research shows if we force a baby to stop using the pacifier before 14 months old, or force baby to stop breastfeeding before 12 months old, it results in higher rates of finger sucking habits. Further research shows sustained pacifier use between 2 and 4 years old was associated with higher rates of dental malocclusions. All of this suggests that the ideal time to wean the pacifier is going to be somewhere between 14 and 24 months old to reduce the chance of developing a finger or thumb sucking habit. But wait a minute, I had said in part 2 of this series we should be trying to get rid of the pacifier around 12 months old because it's generally easier to wean at that time. And that's still true, but if you notice that your baby starts sucking on their fingers or thumb, I would recommend giving them the pacifier back and allowing them to use it for a little bit longer because, as I just said, many kids around 2 to 3 years old will naturally stop using the pacifier, but finger and thumb sucking is much harder is a much harder habit to break. I'm going to take a moment to acknowledge that pacifiers can be a major sleep crutch for your child. And some of you are waking up multiple times at night to give your baby their binky back, and I know how exhausting this can be. So if you're in this season of life, I totally empathize with you. If the pacifier is causing your baby frustration, increased crying, and more night wakings, you can try teaching them how to put the binky in by themselves. You can use those glow-in-the-dark pacifiers. You can scatter more than one binky in their crib, or you can work on other soothing techniques instead of using the pacifier, like nursing, cuddling, or rocking to wean from the pacifier. Now let's get into how to wean from the pacifier. How you choose to wean from the pacifier is going to entirely depend on your child's age, their attachment to their pacifier, when they use their pacifier, and their temperament. When you're ready to begin the weaning process, some people believe the best thing you can do is wean the pacifiers to sleep times only. And eventually, as you're getting closer to completely weaning, wean down so your child only has one pacifier. Make sure to talk to your child about what's going to happen and start to prepare them at least a couple days ahead of time before and as the transitions are happening. There are some really cute books out there that can help. For younger kids, I really like this book called No More Pacifier Duck, or for older kids, there is Flory the Passy Fairy. If your child is a little bit older, you can tell them about the Passy Fairy. The Passy Fairy comes to take pacifiers from big kids who don't need them anymore and gives them to babies who do need them. You can decorate a little envelope and put the pacifier in there and leave it out for the Passy Fairy. And when the Passy Fairy takes the envelope, they leave behind a little toy. If your child asks about their pacifier, you can remind them that babies need them and talk about the toy that they got that brings them comfort and joy. You can also use a binky box or binky house, which you and your child can select together or decorate if they're a little bit older. Otherwise, you could use like a little jewelry box or something, and the binky lives in the binky box until nighttime. When they wake up from sleep, before you even get them out of their crib, you want to have them hand you the binky. So hold out your hand and they'll hand you the binky, and the binky goes in the binky box, and you can pair it with language. Binky goes in the binky box, or bye bye binky, but this way you're teaching them where the pacifier lives. After you've established the binky box, a great example of a bedtime routine would be to start with the pacifier, a lovey, a chewy tube, and a book. After allowing your child to suck on the pacifier for a little bit, you can open the binky box and allow your child to put the binky in. You can give them a chewy tube so that they can still continue to get their oral needs met, which should help keep them calm and regulated, and then take the chewy tube before they go to bed. Or if they're over the age of 1, you can use your best judgment about laying them down with a chewy tube in their crib. The idea here is that they will start to make that positive bedtime association and comfort with you and their lovey while getting their sensory needs met by chewing on the chewy tube and getting rid of the pacifier. This transition typically takes about 3 to 4 days. You may also be in a situation where your toddler is biting the tips and pieces off of their pacifier. If this is the case, I would not recommend a gradual transition, but, and as mean as this sounds, I would recommend you get rid of the binky cold turkey. You can do lots of other things to comfort your child during this transition period, but you don't want to lay them down to rest with a possible choking hazard. This would be a great time to use the binky fairy method. It would just have to happen really fast. And I've heard of people having great success bringing their pacifiers to Build-A-Bear with their child and making a bye-bye passy stuffy, or sewing the pacifier into a stuffy or corner of a blanket that they already have at home. That way they know their pacifier is close by and they can hug their new stuffy or blankie if they're missing their pacifier. As parents, we are inundated with information and recommendations, and again, anyone you talk to and any source you reference when looking up when and how to wean the pacifier will give you different answers depending on what angle they're looking through. You know your child best, and this is why you'll have to implement the strategy that you think is going to work best for your child. I've heard from many parents that no matter what strategy they tried, it can take up to 3 cranky nights during that transition period where you may have to just provide a little bit of extra support and comfort. Okay, I'm going to share my personal experience here because my husband and I were the mean parents who took the pacifiers away cold turkey at 18 months old for both of our older kids. We weaned them down to pacifiers only when they slept, and then when we were ready to take the plunge, we took all of the pacifiers and told them to wave goodbye to them in the morning, and both of them actually only asked about the pacifiers on that first night, and we told them no more pacifiers. Pacifiers went bye-bye, remember? And to be honest here, there were a couple times with my middle child I missed the pacifier, and that's when she was sick and she was waking up constantly needing to be soothed all the time, and she was so much harder to soothe without the pacifier while she was sick. But guess what? We made it through it, and whenever you're ready to wean from the pacifier, you will too. The good news is you have all the information now, so you can start planning when and how you're going to wean from the pacifier when the time comes. As always, thank you so much for being here with me. If you have any questions, comments, or personal experiences weaning from the pacifier that you'd like to share, I would love to hear them. I look forward to seeing you next time.